story begins on this sun-baked, foot-trampled swath of space in Tallahassee called the Patch.
Oh, the Patch. There is no place on this earth like the Patch. That's where you go to, really work on your character, not just band.
It is the proving ground for the fabled Florida A&M University Marching 100. But the band is under indefinite suspension, and no one has marched on the Patch since the fall. On November 19th, one of the 6 student leaders of the band, drum major and former clarinet player Robert Champion, was beaten to death during a hazing incident.
You're sitting in shock and you're thinking this is a cruel joke for somebody to play.
His parents, Pamela and Robert Sr., got the news from a late-night phone call. But all they were told at the time was that their son had collapsed and died.
You just start trying to rationalize things in your head. You're trying to figure out, okay, he just collapsed. How could he just collapse? What happened?
They knew their son, seen here in orange, was an opponent of hazing, but later learned that he died in a hazing incident. They were also told he participated of his own free will.
I refuse to believe that.
I don't believe it.
There has been speculation that Champion was beaten so severely because he had been anti-hazing, and possibly because he was gay. The question for many, however, is why he would have subjected himself to hazing in the first place. Why do some people choose to do it?
Well, some people choose to do it, I think, because they'll probably feel as though they won't belong otherwise. Like, oh, well, you're a loser for not doing it, or, you're a square.
Hazing is officially banned at A&M and is illegal under Florida law, but it has persisted at the school and all over the country for generations. Marching 100 members say it ranged from mild harassment to outright physical abuse.
Sometimes they would hit you in your chest, your back, but they would never punch you in your face or anything like that, because then that would pretty much show that you are going through initiation.
Band members say the toughest test, the one that took Robert Champion's life, was known as crossing Bus C. Anytime the band left for a trip, the percussion section took the third bus, Bus C. They had their own initiation for those who chose to do it. Those initiations would take place when the buses were parked and there were no bus drivers or band staff around.
Man, it's, if you listen to the stories and look at certain things, it's hell on wheels, literally. It's hell on wheels.
So how did Champion end up on Bus C? Keon Hollis, another one of the band's 6 drum majors and Champion's roommate on road trips, says it was in part to earn respect from some band members who did not accept Champion's authority. The one thing that's out there, and obviously has been a topic of discussion since his death, is the fact that he was gay. Do you think that was a factor in how some people treated him?
That definitely played a part in the lack of respect that he would get from other members, because some members did feel that way about him.
But together, Hollis says he and Champion made a decision. Like the other 4 drum majors had, they would cross Bus C. They decided to do it after the annual Florida Classic in Orlando, the season's grand finale. How much do you think the lack of respect that he felt at times played into his decision to cross over?
I feel like me, he probably thought, okay, if I do the bus, I'm gonna get more respect from my band members. The people that disrespect me, they're gonna respect me because I did Bus C.
So it was his choice?
It's a choice.
Were there any adults around?
No.
Any idea where the driver was?
No.
And how many people were on the bus, do you think?
Had to be at least 15.
Hollis says the first step is enduring what's known as a hot seat. So what happens while you're in the hot seat?
You're just getting beat.
Where are you getting hit?
Everywhere.
You hit with instruments?
Everything.
While Champion withstood the hot seat, Hollis was told to stand at the front of the bus to be prepped, slapped repeatedly on his bare torso. And then what?
They tell you to go through. And then that's when you do everything that you can and make it to the back of the bus.
So they tell you that that's your goal. You have to make it to the back of the bus.
Touch the back wall. You're basically pushing to the back. And the whole time, they're kicking you, punching you, beating you.
By the time Hollis made it to the back, Champion had started behind him.
I saw him beating him. I saw him punching him, kicking him. Saw him hitting him with stuff. I saw him hold him down so they can beat him some more. I saw him pull him back. He got about halfway, then pulled him back a couple more feet.
How far did he get?
He made it to the back. He finished. He just looked at me like we both was feeling the same way, just out of it. And I remember he asked me for something to drink. And then after that, I got off the bus and I left. I walked back to the room. And that was the last time that I talked to him.
Hollis says he staggered back to his room and collapsed on the bed. Back on the bus, however, Champion lost consciousness and panicked band members called 911.
Man, we have a band member right here. He's on the bus and he's not breathing.
He's not
We're
breathing.
At the Rosedale Plaza. I'm with him, ma'am. He's not breathing.
Okay.
I tried to give him CPR and he started to vomit. He's not responding.
The medical examiner ruled Champion's death a homicide. An autopsy showed that while his head and neck were untouched, his torso was covered with contusions, and he had deep tears in the tissue beneath his skin. He ultimately died from hemorrhagic shock due to blunt force trauma. Band director Julian White identified Champion's body, and he says it was only later that he began to hear that hazing had occurred. The first person he met with was Dr. White, right?
Right.
How specific were you about what went on in Bus C?
They told him what had happened as far as to Robert. And at that point, he kind of understood what happened, because Bus C is something that's old. It's something that's been going on for a long time. And I remember him saying, I thought it had stopped. I thought it was over. Why are people still doing it?
But White says the legacy of Bus C was new to him, and he says he never spoke to Hollis.
The first time I heard about Bus C was when I went to the hospital and I started to look into probable causes, which I'm not at liberty to go into, but just to answer your question, the Bus C initiation, I heard about it after Robert's death.
You'd never heard a reference to it before that?
No.
Let me ask you, how could you not know?
I could not know simply because I had not observed the kind of things that happened, and I can't go into what happened because of, obviously that's still under investigation.
White says band members must sign an anti-hazing pledge when they join, and he points out that in the months before Champion died, he kicked 26 students out of the band for hazing and reported many of the cases to the police. But just 3 weeks before Champion's death, an incident left freshman Bria Hunter with a cracked femur, blood clots, and deep bone bruising. 3 students were kicked out of the band and later arrested.
This culture has sort of regenerated itself. And you have these individuals who may have done it in the fraternity, so they pass it on. You have those individuals who may have done it in the band, and they continue to pass it on.
Dr. White will, talk about it over the microphones at every rehearsal. Before, after, during, don't haze, no hazing. Of course, he can't stop the students after, they leave the patch.
But even those most deeply affected by Robert's death say they want to see the band back playing on the patch to teach other generations the Marching 100 tradition. When would you want to see them back on the field?
As soon as possible.
Our goal is never to stop the music because that's what my son loved. He loved music, but certainly want to end the hazing. There is no need for it.
TJ Quinn reporting. ESPN invited the president of Florida A&M to join us, as well as extending individual invitations to each and every member of the university panel investigating that fatal hazing incident. All parties declined, but President James Ammons did issue a statement through a public relations firm retained by the university. It says in part, from the ongoing suspension of the Marching 100 and intake of all student organizations to the formation of the Florida A&M Anti-Hazing Committee and mandatory campus safety forums, we are taking a firm stance and believe we are collectively on the right path. This will result in a thorough review of our policies and processes with the ultimate goal of making Florida A&M as safe a campus as possible, where the principles of respect and dignity become our guide in interacting with our colleagues and fellow students. Let's now bring in TJ Quinn, who reported the story. TJ, you've heard the president's statement. You also have heard what he said in the few days after this incident. Let's lay your reporting against his statement and analyze.
Well, you've got a lot of people down there pointing fingers at each other, as expected. A number of lawsuits that have been filed. Dr. White, who we saw in the piece, has said in the past, he didn't repeat this when we sat down with him, but in the past he has said that when he tried to take steps to kick people out of the band to end hazing, he didn't feel he had the support of the administration. He said that there were a number of students that he kicked out of the band who were not expelled from school, and that allowed them to stay around and still be a part of what was going on. And you've had a number of parents who said in the past that they tried to raise some sort of awareness, some call to action from Dr. White and the university saying this continues to go on, something needs to be done.
What sort of signs were out there, according to the individuals you spoke to, that might have alerted the administration, might have alerted Dr. White, who said until this incident he did not know about Bus C and that particular ritual? What was going on that might have alerted folks?
Well, there are a number of things that were going on every day. We talked about the patch. One of the rules for freshmen, numerous people told us, is that freshmen may not walk on the patch. When they're there, they have to run. When they're sitting in the stands during any performance, freshmen are not allowed to look back. A number of people in the band said there's no way Dr. White couldn't have noticed those things, but he said that he didn't notice. But you had all those other incidents in the past. You had Bria Hunter, we talked about, another former band member whose kidneys actually shut down after a beating. People said that they should have known, and that if there was any concern that Bus C still existed and was going on, they should have had somebody out there, that they should have had someone posted to make sure students could not get onto those buses once they were back at the hotel.
And still no arrests have been made. TJ Quinn, thanks.